In March 1918, one of the largest ships in the entire U.S. Navy vanished with 306 men aboard, somewhere between the Caribbean and the American coast. No wreckage, no distress call, no survivors. Decades later, both of her sister ships, built to the same design in the same shipyard, disappeared the exact same way, on the exact same ocean. Some stories were never meant to be found. The USS Cyclops was a genuine giant of her era, 542 feet long, one of 4 Proteus-class colliers built specifically to haul coal and supplies for the entire U.S. fleet, commissioned in 1910 and among the largest ships the Navy operated at the time. When America entered the First World War in 1917, Cyclops became essential to the war effort, ferrying troops, coal, and cargo across the Atlantic to keep the Navy's ships fueled, supplied, and moving on schedule. In January 1918, she was sent to Brazil on a new assignment: load thousands of tons of manganese ore, a critical ingredient in wartime steel production, and carry it back across the Atlantic to Baltimore. While docked in Rio de Janeiro for repairs and resupply, mechanical trouble surfaced. A cracked cylinder had left one of her 2 main engines completely non-operational, cutting her power in half. A repair crew examined the damage and formally recommended the ship return stateside for proper repairs before continuing her voyage. Command overruled that recommendation. The voyage continued anyway, on a single working engine deep into wartime waters. Making matters worse, Cyclops was loaded with over 10,000 tons of dense manganese ore, heavy, unfamiliar cargo, and by most later accounts, significantly more weight than she was rated to safely carry. On February 16th, she departed for Bahia, her only scheduled stop before Baltimore, then continued on to a routine stop in Barbados in early March to take on additional fuel for the long Atlantic crossing. Crew who had sailed her on previous voyages later noted she'd developed a troubling habit of rolling dangerously in heavy seas, a detail that would matter enormously in hindsight once she was gone. On March 4, 1918, Cyclops departed Barbados bound for Baltimore, right on schedule. That routine departure message was the last transmission anyone ever received from her. She never arrived. No SOS was ever transmitted. No wreckage, no oil slick, no lifeboats, and no bodies were ever recovered anywhere along her expected route, despite a search that covered enormous stretches of ocean. 306 men gone, without a single physical trace of what happened to any of them. It remains, to this day, the largest loss of life in U.S. Navy history with no direct connection to combat. The Navy launched an exhaustive investigation almost immediately. The first and most obvious suspicion, given the ongoing war, was a German U-boat attack. Cyclops would have made a genuinely valuable strategic target for the German Navy. After the war ended, captured German naval records were examined in full detail by investigators. There had been no U-boats operating anywhere near her route on the days she vanished. That theory was effectively ruled out. Other theories followed in the decades since: a sudden catastrophic structural failure, a possible mutiny suggested by one former crew member's later published account, or cargo that shifted violently and destabilized the ship in rough seas, capsizing her too quickly for any distress signal to go out. The Navy's own final official conclusion, on the record, remains simply this: her loss remains unknown. The overloaded cargo theory accounts for a great deal here. A single working engine, a well-documented tendency to roll dangerously in bad weather, and thousands of tons of dense, unfamiliar ore that could plausibly shift and capsize her quickly if conditions turned. It doesn't fully explain the total and complete absence of wreckage. Not one lifeboat, one oil slick, or one piece of floating debris was ever reported along her entire route, despite an extensive multi-week search by multiple ships. and it doesn't explain the single detail that unsettled the Navy most of all. Both of Cyclops' sister ships, the Nereus and the Proteus, built to the exact same design in the same shipyard, carrying similar cargo on similar Atlantic routes, later vanished too with all hands lost, and without a trace, just like her, years apart from each other. Some stories were never meant to be found. This one took 306 men, then quietly repeated itself twice more on two identical ships, decades apart. Tell me in the comments. A fatal design flaw shared by an entire ship class, or something in these waters that doesn't care what a ship is made of? Subscribe to the Unburied. The Ocean Files continue from here.